The mouse and keyboard will always be our first choice for playing games on PC, but some games are better suited to a controller. As more and more console games make their way to the PC, it makes sense to have a great PC controller on hand. But what makes for the best PC gaming controller? We've tested the DualShock 4, Xbox 360 controller, every official version of the Xbox One controller, and a few dedicated PC pads to pick our favorite. These are the best controllers for PC, chosen for comfort, control, and how compatible they are with PC gaming. It isn't intended for use on the PC, but the DualShock 4 is my favorite controller anyway. I've used each of its predecessors, the two current Logitech controllers, the MADTECH CTRLR, the Razer Sabertooth, the Xbox 360 and Xbox One controllers, and just about every console controller from the NES to present day. The DualShock 4 isn't superior in every way to every one of these competitors, but it's a superior all-around choice. It doesn't look as durable as the Xbox One controller, but it's durable. When I squeeze the handles with as much force as I can barely hear the strain. I also pushed each of the buttons, triggers, bumpers, and analog sticks down with as much force as I could, and each sprang back as if untouched. The biggest caveat, which doubles as a positive, is that the DS4 is not designed with Windows PCs in mind. Whereas it's very easy to get an Xbox 360 or Xbox One controller working, and most PC games will use their Bix button prompts, you have to purchase Sony's expensive USB adapter or use the free unofficial DS4 Windows software. The software essentially tricks Windows into treating the DS4 like an Xbox 360 controller, so just about any game which supports an Xbox 360 controller, basically any game with controller support, should work with the default profile. It also allows for a ton of customization. I love messing with the LED settings. If you're willing to do a little bit of setup work, the DS4 is a fantastic wireless PC controller with all the customization you could want. Microsoft Xbox Elite Wireless Controller. The Elite nomenclature is typically marketing nonsense, but in this one instance, I think it applies. For those who like their PCs state-of-the-art, clean, and beautiful, for those with Swedish headphones made of volcanic glass, for those who make their PB&J from scratch, the Xbox Elite controller is for you. It's a sturdy, configurable, and gorgeous controller for enthusiasts of fancy. The shell and button layout don't feel distinct from the vanilla Xbox One controllers, though it feels heavier than most pads I've used. I like a bit of weight in my controllers and mice, but it might not feel good on tiny wrists after a long play session. The face buttons are large and still mushy, the bumpers and triggers have a responsive click and pull, they just feel identical to using an Xbox One controller. The addition of some slick software that allows for tweaking of trigger max values, stick sensitivities, button assignments, and profile designations makes it even more attractive for PC experimentation. Everything about the Xbox Elite controller feels precise and considered, so even though its familiar design isn't stepping outside of what's tried and true, the configurable, sleek design makes it an easy recommendation for those who can afford it. Razer Wildcat. It's hard to recommend the Razer Wildcat specifically for gaining an advantage in competitive esports, even though that's the marketing message behind it. The pad feels very similar to the Xbox One's controller design in terms of size and shape, and with optional adhesive grips, holding the controller for long periods of time is made a bit more comfortable. The triggers have an easy pull, which can be shortened via two sliders on the back of the controller. Every other button presses with a satisfying and super responsive click, exactly like using a mouse. A caveat: the negligible amount of pressure required for a press means accidental button bumps aren't out of the question. D-pad design does away with omnidirectional inputs and sticks to 4 buttons. That means fighting game inputs might be hit or miss, but at least the cardinal directions are harder to fudge. The addition of 2 inner bumper buttons and 2 rear position trigger buttons mean you can spend more time with your thumbs on the sticks, but for smaller hands, they might be a bit awkward to reach. It's not an impulse buy, but the Wildcat definitely carries the features and build to warrant a higher price point. The controller has a few of the same customization options and extra buttons as the Xbox Elite controller, but the implementation isn't as elegant. As a result, the Wildcat settled into feeling more like an expensive, slightly customizable take on Xbox controller design, while the Xbox Elite takes things one step further.